I see the recording has started.
Hey, hi everyone, and thank you to joining the session today on creating a dashboard in our using Power BI. And today we have Tony with us, who is a Microsoft MVP, and he'll be helping us understand and create a dashboard in within an hour. And before we get into the session, there's two things about today's session. That is, there is going to be a recording, and which will be available in our YouTube channel. And secondly, there is a certificate of participation to for those who stay till the end. I will share a form where you can participate or fill out the form, and it basically give you the certificate of participation for the session. Okay, without any more delay, let's get into the session and over to you, Tony. Tony, you are on mute.
Let me fix that. Thank you. There. No more delays. So hi, Sarag. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Today we're going to discuss dashboard in an hour. And yeah, no more delays, hopefully. So sorry about that. And thank you, everyone, for hanging on. Thank you, everyone, for switching over to this new meeting invite. So again, hello. I'm Tony Kwa, founder of Power BI Pilipinas, senior manager under T-Tech Digital for the data visualization team. And yeah, Microsoft MVP, PL300, PL900 certified, Six Sigma Green Belt, and NPS Associate. And 20 years in the business process outsourcing industry. So I've been wallowing around in the call center space since I graduated. So let's actually get started to the meat of the presentation since we have spent a bit of time already with some technical issues. So Power BI Desktop is an app from Microsoft. We do highly recommend that. So there's two ways to install it. You can either install it via Microsoft Store or you can install it as a regular .exe app. We do recommend that you install it via the Microsoft Store because that way you always automatically get the freshest updates, the freshest versions on your machine. Now, there are certain operating systems that are not supported. Windows 7 is not supported. I really hope no one's using that system anymore at this year and time. Mac OS, unfortunately, is not supported. If you do want to use Power BI Desktop and you're on a Mac, you will need to install a Windows virtual machine. And that's sadly, that's how everyone's doing it if they're on a Mac OS laptop or desktop. Internet Explorer, again, is not supported. However, if you're using Edge, you're good. As far as RAM, display, constant things or standard things, 4 GB up and above 900 pixel screen, please, and above 1 GHz CPU. Now, if you do want to follow along the discussion that we're going to have in a few minutes, you may download the dataset. I did paste that in chat. So feel free to download it. I will be walking you through the actual Excel file. So if you can download it, good. If you cannot, no worries as well. So let's start with the basic pieces. Let's discuss the Power BI desktop interface. Now, if you did already download or if you have the Power BI desktop app downloaded on your desktop, you may know that during the October release, this was actually changed. You will not see the splash screen anymore or this intro screen. So let's actually get to the actual Power BI desktop screen. So if you're using Microsoft Office or if you have used Microsoft Office apps, you'll be familiar with your title bar at the top, your menu bar right below it, and of course your ribbon. This is a slightly uh, collapsed ribbon. It can be expanded to the regular chunkier ribbon that we're used to with Office apps or with default Office apps, that is. And on the middle, we have the report canvas. On the left side, we have the view tabs where you have report at the very top. you have the data model, and sorry, you have report, you have data, and you have model. We will be discussing it in more detail in a few minutes. And on the right side, we have other panes. So you have your filter pane, you have your visualizations pane, you have your fields pane, and you have your pane switcher, because there are other panes that I'm just not showing in front of you. But again, we will be going through some of them in a bit. And lastly, there is this button up top that says transform data. It's actually your button to open the Power Query editor. So newbies with Power BI desktop often get confused with the two applications that they're actually faced with once they start working with Power BI. What's in front of you is your Power BI desktop screen. If you click on that button, it will open a new window, which is called Power Query Editor. Those are in a way two different apps because they also use two different formulas, syntaxes, basically two different format for sorry programming languages. The first one earlier, let's go back to that. The Power BI desktop one, or the Power BI desktop environment uses DAX as its formula language. Now, DAX is heavily similar to what you would use in Excel. There's a lot of overlap between the functions and the syntax, how you write an if statement, for example, with uh, if, then open parentheses, condition, then logical true, logical false, close parentheses. It's exactly the same way as how you will write it here in this environment. However, once you're inside the Power Query editor, once you click that transform data button, it brings you to another new screen, and it brings you to a different programming language that we call M language, which stands for mashup. Some people would just call it Power Query language. And this is a preview of how it looks like. We have your formula bar here, and as you may have noticed, yeah, pretty different from what you're used to with Excel. So on the top, you again have your title bar, you have your menu bar, you have your ribbon, you have your status bar this time at the bottom, where on the bottom left corner, you'd notice that it says that it is profiling based on 1,000 rows. So one automatic thing with Power Query Editor is that doesn't matter how many rows you initially have, whether it's a million, a billion, it will always sample 1,000 rows. From that 1,000 rows, that is where you will be applying your transformations, your appends, your joins, and it allows a much quicker sampled approach in terms of the ETL, the extract, transform, load process, as opposed to you diving in and working with the entire data set. Of course, it comes with a slight uh, negative or the slight con that you don't have full visibility to all of the data contents in this view. But that's fine, very workable. So on the middle, we have table preview, in which earlier we had report canvas where you'd have whatever visual bar chart, pie chart, column chart you'd like to show. This time, it will only show tables in the Power Query editor. So that's another differentiator between the two. You use your Power Query editor more as a more as an ETL tool, more as a tool where you will be extracting the data, whether it's from Excel, SQL, certain APIs, certain apps, and then this is where we highly recommend that you transform it before actually bringing it to Power BI and before you pulling in visuals from it. We will be going through Power Query Editor in a moment, or actually demoing it in a moment. And then on the top, as I've said, there's your formula bar. On the left side, we have the query pane. The query pane lists down all of the tables that you are using in your current data model. As of now, we only have one that is called the table. But yeah, this could be any name. This could be any number of tables as well. And then on the right side, we have the steps pane. So inside the table query, what are the steps that we're doing to the data to transform it, for example? So in this case, it has a source line, which tells us where the data is actually located. Is it in a SQL server? Is it in a SharePoint location? Is it on your OneDrive? And then change type is just another step that we did. Change type usually means that we changed a data type. In this case, we changed column 1 to type text, column 2 to text, 3 text, and then 4 and 5 to integer types. So that's it as far as the interface is concerned. Feel free to interrupt should you have any questions. But or you can also feel free to leave questions in chat. For now, let's jump into the actual demo. Oop, forgot to alt tab. So to those of you who did download the dataset, it was this, the Bigfoot sightings.xlsx. So let me just give you an overview of what it contains. So for the first column, it's the observed column that contains witness accounts of sightings of Bigfoot. So this is Bigfoot sightings data dated from 19 somethings, 1930s, 20s, I don't know, all the way up to the year 2020. I just got muted. I unmuted myself. I hope that's fine, Sarag. But yeah, so as far as the observed pieces here, we have we have unstructured data, witness accounts, and then we have county, we have state, uh, we have the season when they saw Bigfoot or when they supposedly saw Bigfoot. We have the title of the report. We have location information, the date, the number. We have the classification, where in Class A sightings are sightings that are really clear, or at least the witness is pretty confident that they did see Bigfoot. Class B is I feel that I felt that it was Bigfoot. Maybe they heard it. They heard really distinct Bigfoot sounds, whatever that means. And then Class C are those that are, of course, at the bottom spectrum where they they felt thought that they saw Bigfoot 5 years ago, things like that, and everything's just really sketchy at that point. And yeah, we also have data in numerics, which are like what was the weather conditions, the temperature, the precipitation, the moon phase, blah blah. So just by looking at the data, pretty simple data set. By the way, BFRO is the Bigfoot Field Research Organization. So just looking at the data itself, you'd know that, or you'd kind of get a sense of what you can do, right? Each row is essentially one observation or one sighting. Now, if you have number of sightings or number of rows, you can then play around with the many ways that you can categorize it. You can classify them by class ABC, how many rows or how many sightings per class, how many sightings per season, sightings by state. Are there more sightings depending on the humidity, depending on the precipitation, things like that. So I'd like everyone to keep that in mind as we go and move into the visualization side later, because it's always a good idea whenever you start a data viz project or data visualization project that you already kind of have an end in mind, and you're not diving in blind. I mean, you can also do that, especially if you're really experienced, but it helps if you have a certain train of thought right now. So that's the Excel. Let's move on, or let's go into Power BI, if I can find it. There it is. So if you are using the October 2023 edition of Power BI, you have the option to enable this home screen already. This is your welcome screen as opposed to the tiny teal one earlier. And I believe I already have one open. Okay, so I titled first step. Let's actually import the Excel file that we had open earlier, Bigfoot sightings.xlsx. Let me close this because Power BI doesn't like it when I import something that is open in the foreground or in the background. And let me copy this location. So we have so many data sources that we can import, and that's one of the what do you call that? key things that Power BI is proud about, like the many connectors that it has, especially amongst the Microsoft environment, of course. But yeah, we are only mainly concerned about Excel at this point. So let's click on Excel workbook. Let's go to that location and let's click on Bigfoot sightings. Click on open. The moment you click on open, you will be able to see a preview of the table as well as whatever sheet you have in that spreadsheet, whatever sheet names you have, as well as whatever table names you have. In this case, it's pretty simple. We only have the BFRO reports geocoded sheet. Let's put a tick on that. And you'll notice that the first button that it kind of encourages you to push is the green load button. However, I'd rather you click on the transform data because what the load button will do is it will jumpstart, quick start the loading into Power BI. The transform data, what that does is it launches what? Your Power Query Editor. So from the Power Query Editor, what you want to do is to give your data one quick look, make sure everything is okay. One of the common things that you would want to check is, do I have the columns that I need? Do I have columns that I do not need and I should rather delete or drop? Sorry. Are there, was I able to correctly tag my column headers? So if you look at the left again, you have your queries. We have that sheet name preloaded on there. If you look on the right side, you have your query settings, and these are the steps that it automatically applied. Take note, I have not typed any sort of code. I just literally clicked on Excel, clicked on the sheet, clicked on transform data. But if I go to the advanced editor, which is right here at the top, click on that, it wrote my code for me. And this is M language code. This is your M code, basically. This is your Power Query code, whatever you want to call it. So first line is the source. It's on my D OneDrive. Second line, it tells Power Query, where's the sheet? What is the sheet name? Third line, it's promoting the headers because it doesn't know initially if there's a header or it should I just call it column 1, column 2, column 3, or column A, B, C. And then lastly, the change type. So everything automatically applied. So I'm going to click cancel for now. And what I want to show you is something really cool. If I click on the first applied step, it it gives you like what's happening one step at a time. So clicking on source gives you this view. Click on navigation, where it now knows which sheet it needs to look at, gives you this view. And notice before I click on step number 3, as of now, the columns are called column 1, column 2, column 3, because under row 1, that's where our sheet, or sorry, that's where our column names are. So we click on promoted headers. Oh, by the way, to Sheila asking where to get the sample file, let me paste the location again in chat. There you go. So feel free to download. Going back, so we have observed county, state now once you're on the promoted headers. But notice that all of their data types say ABC123. ABC123 is pretty much Power Query talk in saying I have no idea what this is, but it could be anything. Not a good practice to leave it as such, because if you leave it as ABC123 or unknown data type, all of your numbers here, for example, latitude, all of your other quantifiable data will be treated as text later on. So you won't be able to sum them. You won't be able to insert them in measures that where you multiply them. Everything's going to be treated as text essentially. So the change type step is pretty important. One thing that we'd like to do, since due to the interest of time, this is dashboard in an hour after all, is to remove columns that we don't really need. Unfortunately, in an hour, I don't really have time to do some text analytics and go through what witnesses are saying about their experiences with Bigfoot. That said, I'd rather remove or drop the observed column. Maybe even the title column, maybe both. So let's click on observed and then control click on title, highlighting them both, right click, and you'd see that there are a lot of options for you to do, one of which is remove columns. And the moment you click that, Both columns gone. We now start with county, state, and if you look on the right side, you now have a removed columns step. Wherein on the formula bar, it says table dot remove columns, the function name, uh, change type or hashtag change type, which is the step before it, so that it knows like where to reference or what state currently it references before doing what it needs to do. And then it's gonna remove the observed and the title column. What if you change your mind? Yeah, you now next week you went back to this report and you feel that you have time. I want to actually read the witness accounts now. All you need to do is click on change type and both of them are there. If you are sure you want to remove the columns, you can simply click on the X here, the delete icon, and load that. You'll have all of your observed and titles back. So pretty intuitive at this point. So let's click on that. Again, let's click on that. Again, I don't want to load them. Makes the import faster as well if you delete unnecessary columns, especially columns that big where it contains like a paragraph of text per cell. So click close and apply if you're ready. Clicking it now. And that closes your Power Query Editor window and puts you back here on your Power BI desktop screen. It shows you a bunch of floating windows. And once it's done, it gives you that blank report canvas. And on the right side, you'd see that, hey, that's my query. So BFRO reports geocoded, expand that, and these are all the columns that we had earlier. Notice the summation. That's because we did due diligence and, or at least Power Query did due diligence and formatted them as numbers earlier. So you have a bunch of numbers, you have a bunch of text, and as I've said, one thing that we actually wanted to have or was obvious with the data set was that one row equals one sighting. So let's create our first measure at this point. Right click anywhere here, I believe. Yeah, anywhere here, and then click on new measure. Clicking new measure opens up your formula bar, Excel fields at this point. And then let's give our measure a title. It says measure equals, so let's call it sightings. Type in the equal sign. I'm hitting shift enter because again, best practice. There will be, as you get more experience with Power BI, one line is not going to be enough. So your DAX will tend to be longer, and it's good practice for you to shift enter and like bullet up your DAX code a lot. So in this case, though, maybe not needed really because we're gonna have a simple function. We're using the count rows function. So from the name itself, it's a function that counts the rows or counts the number of rows in a table. Our table is named BFRO, so open parentheses, BFRO. IntelliSense will kick in. You can just hit tab, close parentheses, hit enter, and it will generate that new measure. Uh, Sorry, what was that? Showing you an icon that looks like a calculator to denote measure. So at this point, there are two ways, or actually there are a lot of ways, but the two more common ways for you to generate an actual visual is to right click, click on add visual. If you have a visual in mind, and then you can click on like what you want to throw in there. You can click on this button, build a visual. By the way, I'm control clicking. That's why I can show you multiple panes at once. If you simply click, if you don't hold control and simply left click, it's gonna, it has a tendency to just select one and only open one field, sorry, one pane at a time. So I'm control clicking the first three because those are the three that I use the most frequently. And then actually, I'm going to show you what I usually do as far as adding visuals. So let me delete this, three dots. You can remove from there, or you can just click on the visual itself, the tile itself, hit delete. And then from there, click on, going back to that fields pane, put a check on the sightings calculation that we built earlier. Clicking that opens up the result. And that actually created or automatically created what Power BI thinks is the best visual to represent that measure. So in this case, it's It's 5,021 sightings. Do we want to double check? It's usually good practice to double check. So again, on the left side, we have the view tabs here, report view, table view, model view. We are currently in the report view where you have your actual report canvas. If you go to table view, it's your, well, literal table view. If you go to the model view, that shows you, this is useful if you have many tables that you're working with, because this will show you what the relationships are. So it's possible that you have like 10 tables there, and then you have 3 tables that are related to one table because there's an ID there and they're all related to that ID. You have another lookup table that is related to just one table, things like that. So this is the view where you will be able to see those. As of now, we only have one table, so not really that useful for us, but just in case, you know where to look at, should you look for the relationships. Let's go back to table view. Look at the bottom left corner, status bar. It says that this table has a total of 5,021 rows, and which is what the count rows gave us. So very good. One thing that I would like to change is I don't want it to say 5021 looking like a zip code. I'd rather it have a comma after it. So all you need to do is click on sightings, the measure name, and then it will automatically pre-select measure tools for you. Just go to the format, or sorry, just go to the comma format right below it, this one. Put the left click on that, and you now have 5,021 sightings in a neat card. So another thing that I would like to see that I mentioned earlier was sightings per season. So I know that our season contains the 4 seasons. Let me click on that. Again, automatically generates like the best visual it feels that it would that would represent your data. I see fall, spring, summer, unknown, and winter. And then let's click on sightings again, or put a check on sightings. This time, it automatically shifted from a table or a matrix into a bar chart. So summer, fall, spring, winter, unknown, showing you that summer has the most number of sightings, then fall, spring, and then winter last. And then we have some people who don't remember what season it was when they saw Bigfoot. But maybe the view that I want is not really a bar chart, but a donut chart. I want a circle, yeah, for this. So pretty easy. In the build a visual pane or on the visualizations pane, again, it's this one right here. Click on the chevron, expand that, and then click on the donut chart that's right here. Clicking on the donut chart changes your chart into a donut. And from there, you have a bunch of formatting options. Almost all the visuals do have formatting options along with them. This is the formatting pane right here, the one with the paintbrush, and it opens this format pane right here. So one thing that I maybe want to clean up is the data labels. I don't really need the decimals for the percentages, so I expand the detail labels here. I scroll all the way down. It says percentage decimal places. Initially, it said automatic. I'm changing it to 0, hitting enter, and I now have lost all of my decimal places on the percentage. Another thing that I kind of want to change is I want to make the donut thinner. And I can do that by opening slices and looking at spacing. In a radius, it says 60%. If I increase the radius to 99%, it would look like so. If I decrease the radius to 0%, it's your pie chart again. So I maybe want something around 75% there. So pretty thin still, you know. And then from there, there's a reason why I wanted that space in the middle. It's because I'm planning to throw this 5021 right there, smack in the middle. Now, if I click on it, if I click on the blank report space or the black canvas space, suddenly my card is lost. That's because currently we have two tiles or two visuals, right? We have this one donut chart floating there, and we have the card that we created earlier. Since we created this last, this was placed on top, as far as layering is concerned. So to fix the layers, all you need to do is go to the selection pane right here, click on that. Oops, I forgot to control click. Anyway, as you see, card is at the bottom. You simply drag card up top, and now you have your card on the top. Another problem now is since card has a white background, it pretty much invaded our donut chart. We can fix that by clicking on the card, clicking on the format button, clicking on the size and style, and clicking on background. What if, let's close that for now. What if you're here on the format pane and you kind of forgot where do I actually click on the background? Like, I know it's here somewhere. So that's why you have a handy dandy search window here where you can just type background. And it gives you like all of the options where background exists. So I actually just learned now that it exists in everywhere. So open each one and for sure, because what it does is it limits your options. Notice that it's not a long list anymore. It it lasers you into what are the options where background exists. So this is actually the background that we're looking for, size and style. Open that and turn it off. Actually, you can turn it off. You can just increase the transparency, but yeah, that doesn't look good. Let's turn it off. So once turned off, it looks like so. You know what? 5021 is kinda too overpowering. I like to reduce the size of that font, and that should be under callout value. Currently, it's using font style din at size 45. We maybe want to just use 32. Yeah, 32 is okay. So there. And then you can control click, of course, to move them all together. And then let's put it there. Here. And one thing that I want to also see is we do have that state column, right? So let's click on the data pane again. This time I'm control clicking. And let's pull up state. Again, puts it in a matrix visual, showing me all the states. And then I want to see sightings by state. And again, puts it in a bar chart, similar to what we saw earlier. But I'm working with the state. What I really want to see is a map. So let's click on build a visual and let's select a map. Where's my map? So this is a map. That's a map. That's a map. Let's try the first one. So clicking on the first one, you'll notice that, yeah, it gives you a map with a bubble on it. And just in case you're wondering, like, if I selected the state, I selected the sightings, shouldn't Power BI like automatically know that I want a map? The reason why it didn't automatically detect that is if you click on state, sorry, if you click on state, and go up top where it pre-selects everything or almost everything that you need. So we're inside column tools. You'll notice that the data category says uncategorized at this point. If you drop that down, you actually can dictate that this specific column is not just any text, it's actually a state column. It's not just any text, it's actually a URL. It's not just any text, it's actually longitude, latitude. So you can declare that. And once you do, if you click on state, for example, you'll notice that boop, it now changes the icon to an actual state icon, and it actually placed Alaska correctly now at the upper left corner. Let's zoom in a bit. I know this is getting really tiny if you have a small screen. If you're watching this from a small screen, sorry about that. There. So we have the map, we have Alaska way up there, and by the size of it, kind of feels like Washington, California, Florida has pretty uh, common sightings of Bigfoot. And as I've said, there are a bunch of maps that are available. This is a pretty popular one because you have bubbles, uh, what do you call that? Visually hinting where you should be looking at. And you have map settings along with it. So currently it's showing you the road format. You can go aerial, where it's much more detailed. You can go light mode on it. If you're a fan of dark mode, yes, we do have dark mode maps as well. You'll just need to change your background, of course, to look good with it. One map that I tend to use a lot, though, if I'm working with US data, is the shape map. because if I click on shape, notice what it did. It actually took that Alaska state and placed it down here at the bottom left corner, neatly tucking it into a nice little rectangle. So that's the Albers USA projection here, map type USA states. And all of that so far has been pretty automatic, right? So I still see that Washington here at the upper left corner is pretty Bigfooty. And then you have, yeah, California being next. So I kind of like this. I'll keep it. I'll place it there. You know what? Let's start putting some margins because that's something that's a best practice if you're building your visualizations. Don't put them like flush on the side because it'll start looking like a floor plan at some point if you do that. Another thing that maybe I'd like to look at is uh, well, we do have the dates, that's a common thing that people want to see. A trend of sightings based on date. So notice that my date here is just, well, a date column. If this is your first time installing Power BI, there is a feature that is selected by default, which I turned off. Options and settings, options, and then go into just on this page, just scroll down, auto date and time intelligence. So I have it turned off. That said, I'm going to go to the current file option set, go to data load here, and then click on auto time intelligence here. What that does is initially it's a blank column, right? I click on OK. And now you'll notice that the date column here has a little calendar icon because it now detected that these are dates, good sir. And because these are dates, if I expand it, I offer you a date hierarchy. And if I expand that, I now provide, or Power BI provides the year, quarter, month, and day. And sorry, I was not looking at the chat a lot, but there is a question. Feel free to ask. Subramanian and Charmaine, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask your questions.
Hey, hi. So
Hi.
once we selected the sheets on the Excel, right? So what option you come to this Power BI to get this dashboard?
Oh, so let's do that again. Once you import or click on the import button here and select your Excel file,
Mhm.
and then it opens this window, the navigator window. So it
Yes.
asks you which page or sheet you want to include. So once you put a check on that, click on transform data, or at least that's what I did earlier. And once
Mhm.
you click on transform data, it opens the Power Query Editor, which is a separate app, separate window. From
Yes.
here, if you're okay, everything's good, you click on the upper left corner, close and apply. And that
Okay. Close and up.
closes.
Okay.
Yes, close and apply. So that closes your Power Query Editor and puts you right here on this on the Power BI desktop app.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Good question. Thank you very much. And Charmaine, did you also have a question? Feel free to unmute. Let me remove that, by the way, because we now have two BFRO geocoded. Let me remove this one, the second one. Delete, delete, and close and apply. Okay, we're back to just one. Charmaine, feel free to unmute or leave your question in chat. Alrighty. Okay, so I shall proceed. So, as I've said, we now have the date, and I'd like to see a trend of sightings. So, click on the date. Whoops. Okay, fine. Yeah, click on the date. That's what it did. And then let me go back to my data pane again. Control click, and I'm looking for sightings. Click on sightings. And the moment I click on sightings, it automatically gives me a trend chart, a line chart. Because, anything with time looks better on a line chart. So you'll notice that you'll notice that the default view is like years. And you have certain arrows at the top. These are your hierarchy buttons or drill down buttons. And I'd like to take your attention to the one that looks like a fork. So if I click it, it now shows me the quarter level of detail. If I click it again, it now shows me the month level of detail. If I click it again, it will show me the day level of detail. Formula for sightings, by the way, I'll paste it in chat. Here you go. There. So, and you might say that that's nice, but kind of hard to read since I'd rather like focus in on 2019 and forward, something like that. That's where a slicer comes in. So you'd want to slice by the date, right? So click on date again and click on the build a visual pane, which I already have, and click on slicer. This is the icon for the slicer right here with the funnel. So click on that. And now you have a slicer. The slicer looks like so where it has the years on it and you can expand the years to see the quarters. You can expand it, blah, blah. It's kind of weird, although usable, but still kind of weird. What you can do is click on the chevron here or the arrow pointing to the right. And where it says date hierarchy, we actually don't want the hierarchy for the slicer because what we want for the slicer is the individual dates to show up. That said, click on the drop down, click on dates instead of date hierarchy. And notice it now unticks everything. It now unticks uh, the basically the other options and just leaves you with the date. And Sirjana, so I'm not sure if your PC slows down with Power BI. It's possible that you might not have enough RAM. Power BI does work with 4 GB of RAM, but I always tell all my students that 8 gigs is where you want to be at this stage of Windows where you have Chrome eating up gigs of RAM easily, especially if you have lots of tabs open. So it might be a RAM issue. Where and sorry, I have a really far away external monitor. So where we Mod asks where we do the data manipulation transformation. That's with Power Query Editor, and this is uh recorded. So feel free to view the Power Query Editor steps that we went through earlier. But honestly, we didn't really do a lot of transformations with this one. It was a pretty clean data set again because we only had an hour. Subramanian asks where I need to run the command. Oh, you just need to right click and click on new measure. And once you right click on the fields pane, that is, click on new measure, and you would have a formula bar to type that in. So going back to the date column, or sorry, to the date slicer that we now have, it now looks like so. So uh, we're now in the date view, but you might say that that's pretty hard to use. If you scroll down, that's a lot of dates for you to go through, and you need to tick each and every one. So I go to my formatting pane, and I can actually format my slicer. Go to slicer settings. As of now, it's a vertical list. Click on the drop down. And what I want to use is a between slicer. So the between slicer looks like so, much more user friendly. We have minimum date of 1869. We have maximum date of 2021. Let's scroll it all the way to something, somewhere, 2007. Maybe I'd like to scroll or I'd like to just click on this button now and select the year. I click on 2007. I click on this arrow. So it allows me to jump like 10 years back, 2011, January. There. Let's select January 1, 2011. There. So at least something more, I don't know, at least palatable, digestible, as opposed to what we had earlier. And the slicer kind of eats a lot of space because of this big balls here. I just need to select responsive, turn it off, and it gives me a more compact line slicer type thing. And I'll put that there at the upper right corner. And maybe I'll move stuff around a bit at this stage. I'll move this there. I'll move this, or I'll maybe make this a bit smaller because our trend line also needs a bit of breathing room. And of course, I now need to move my card somewhere there. I now need to make this kind of a bit smaller as well. There, lining everything up. Oops. Okay, let me line this up. There, there. And it now says one sighting because I forgot. I think I selected something somewhere. So is it here? Is it here? I think it's here. There, I did select something. So there was a state with one sighting. So notice that all of the visuals here, I now have 4 visuals. If I select this, I think, or 5. Yeah, 5 visuals, but everything here can select each other. So if I click on summer, this blue slice here, oops, I'm accidentally selecting the card. You know what? Let's put the card behind again. And then instead, sightings by season, change that to a transparent background. Makes sense, right? There. We can see the sightings behind it. And
Hey Tony, you went mute.
oh yeah. All right. Thank you for mentioning that. So I'm not sure where I got lost, but hopefully it's not that far. But uh so if you click on summer here on your donut chart, notice that it actually filters everyone else. It well actually
You're muted
Hey
again.
Tony, seems
oh yeah, there. I'll need to yeah, take a peek at that more often. Where can I find the format button? You just click on the format button here on the pane side. It's the one with the paintbrush. Where can if you can also add how to convert sum to average when I'm adding a number data, it's automatically adding it and I want average info. Oh, well, yeah, let's go to, let's actually show that now. Or actually, let's show that after this. So as of now, we are on summer. I click off that. But let's click on the one that has a smaller data set, winter here. If I click on winter, more states don't have sightings now. We see a lot of grays and we have only a few sightings, only 166. So again, uh, each visual by default can affect other visuals in the same page. That's the default behavior of your Power BI. Now, let's work with more DAX or measures, right? So we have some summations here. If I click on pressure, for example, you notice that at the top it says summarization. So that's the default summarization actually. It actually by default will summarize the sum. If you click on the drop down, you have the option to default summarize to average. You have the option to default summarize to minimum, maximum, count, or count distinct. But there will be times where it's okay for the summarization to be sum. You actually want another measure for it to be an average, right? So that's where right-clicking, selecting new measure again comes in. So earlier we had sightings at count rows. So we can right-click again, go to new measure, and create a measure with the name, say, pressure average and say equals and shift enter and use average. IntelliSense kicks in again. I just tab average and put measure on, or sorry, pressure on there, close parentheses, hit enter. And we now have a new measure that shows us the average of pressure. And then this one, we can set it back as default summarize the sum. And we now can throw them, for example, click that as well. We now can see that we have a sum of pressure of 681,000, but the pressure average is 1,000 for the current settings. So yeah, pretty easy. And let's put that somewhere, right? Can I do this? Yeah, I can. Okay, good. So it automatically puts itself like tries to fit it in as well. And we do have a bit of space here. Lastly, maybe what we want to see is something that shows me the frequency distribution of what do you call that? humidity, let's say. So let's select humidity. Where's my humidity? Sorry, I forgot my alphabet. So humidity, once I select that, I see 625.24, but I want to see the frequency distribution of humidity with sightings, of course. So I click on sightings, and you, to the eagle brained of you, the sharp brained of you, will think that if I click on sightings now, I'd see something similar to this, right? Basically a multi-card visual. Select that, and there you go. There's your multi-card. I click on build a visual on the right side again, and it shows multi-row card as the visual format that it's selected. But I don't want that. I actually want, if you can imagine with me, I want to see sightings on the y-axis of a bar chart, or sorry, of a column chart. And then I want to see humidity on the column axis of that same column chart. On the x-axis, I mean, sorry, of that column chart. Excuse me. So what I want to see essentially is, for certain humidities, are there more sightings, right? Again, frequency distribution of humidity. So click on the drop down, click on the column chart, which is this one, clustered column chart. So I click on that, still does not give me the correct one that I want to see. So sightings and humidity are both placed on the y-axis. What I want to see is sum of humidity. Actually, do I want the sum? Yeah, sum is okay at this point because I want to drag it all the way to the x-axis. And you notice that sum is removed now. It's now showing me all of the possible humidities. And it gives me a good sense that zero point 0.8 humidity is where usually we see Bigfoot. And at the same time, you can hit control on your keyboard and highlight that, or was it shift? Sorry, maybe it's control, or okay, never mind. There you go. So I can hit control on my keyboard and select a certain range. I can do that here, and I can do that here as well. So control on my keyboard there, and select certain pieces of my data. I keep on there and select certain pieces of my data by doing that. So, and as you notice, as if I selected that, I think late 2017 and early 2018, these are the humidity spreads that they show me. And these are the states where those sightings happened around 2018. Excuse me. So yeah, oops. So I accidentally selected both. I'm clicking on stuff now, or clicking on the empty spaces to reset my charts. And then, yeah, there you go. So I drag this here, put that on there. And pro tip, one of the things that can easily make your dashboard look much better are border lines on them. Maybe border lines, maybe having a different colored background where you can see the partitions between each and every one of your visuals. That actually helps. As of now, mm, let's do the, yeah, you know what? Let's do the background approach. Why not? So click on an empty space on your background. Click on this, the format pane again. Let's go canvas, not really canvas background. Or yeah, sorry, canvas background is what we want. And then click on this shade of gray. You can be more, what do you call this, more uh, creative and select certain colors. But yeah, let's select something that's of a green shade, like a moss green, because we're talking about Bigfoot here. So notice that nothing happened because transparency was defaultly set at 100%. Is the Power BI report best presented interactively, or how can the report export into a more common format? Yeah, sorry, there's no common format. You're with Power BI at this point. So common format or common way to present it is, or at least the recommended way to present this is for you to publish this to the Power BI service and share it with your stakeholders. You can save this as a PBIX file, share that. That's also an option, but it would require users to have Power BI Desktop installed. So we now have this. Maybe not the best looking, but yeah, let's try our best. Let's remove the background here on that slicer. Let's add in the background here again because it now looks weird. And I will need to switch it up again, put the card up on top of it for visual sake. This one looks weird because it went outside the map, so let's put it back inside the map. This is not aligning anymore, so let's align that. Actually, this one's not aligned for some reason. There. Okay, that's fine. And then, yeah, I'm kind of cool with that. One thing that I maybe would like to add as a slicer as well is, you know, let's add this. Let's put this in the middle. There is the class or classification of the sightings. So let's open this, go to class classification, and change that to a slicer again. Notice that I only see class A and class B. We do have really a small number of class Cs on there. So same deal. We can format it to not have a background since that's what we're going for here anyway. We can change slicer settings to a drop down instead of a vertical list so as to give that look. They don't look very aligned right now, but all of those are editable at some point. Yeah, there, pretty much. And then it says classifications. You can change the title. For slicers, we have two titles, three titles actually. We have a title, we have a subtitle, everything's turned off. This one that we're using is actually called the slicer header. And this is neat because it has an eraser on it built in. So instead of classification, we want it to have capital in front, for example, and we want it to just say class, for example. So yeah. And then you're just missing a big text for your report title at this point. So hit on text. Sorry, I went to insert, clicked on text box there. Yes, this is recorded. And then expand that here up to whatever actually, depends on you. And then add in some text, the title of this report. So let's call this Bigfoot sightings. Sightings. Change that to a slightly bigger font, 32. Too big. 24. Yeah, just right. And then yeah, you can bold, you can not bold, you can change it to uh well actually why not use a go bold and then use white font on it. And then remove the background of this little box as well. There you go. And then maybe look for a logo somewhere on the web that you can use. I think I still have an old logo. Do I? Yeah, I do. So let's go here again. Copy this directory. Go back here. And still under your insert ribbon, go to this button here. Add an image to your report. Copy that. And I have a Bigfoot logo ready and waiting, which is black, but yeah, that's fine. So we'll use this. There. See, looks better already with the logo added on. I am using way too much space on the left margin, so I'll fix that in a bit. So now it looks weird with the white font. Let's change the font back to black, or at least dark gray. And then scooch this over to the left side since it's eating up way too much space, or it has way too much space on the left now. And yeah, we now have the space to expand this slightly as well. And yeah, that's your Bigfoot sightings report at this point. Of course, don't forget to hit save, and it will ask you to save to a PBIX. Oh wait, did it? It's not saving. Oh, there you go. So save this file, and you do have the option to save directly to OneDrive or to any of your previous locations, or when you hit more options, it does allow you to save as there. If you click on browse this device, it opens up the more traditional, Windows little save as screen. So you still have that. It's kind of tucked away though at this point. So Srijana asks, is it possible to modify the background color of charts from white to black? Of course. So not only that, so I'm just going to show you the quick background here. It's colored white. You can change that to pink, whatever, right? And you can actually go here at the top, view ribbon, click on themes, and let's select this, high rise. There you go. High res theme and looking much more uh, synced up with the screen that we have right behind it. And you also have the option to check the background and not just use white or black, but use a transparency. Maybe slightly more fancy. Use 20% there. And yeah, again, makes everything, gel better. And that's your goal really. So uh it's one thing to create like really practical, useful dashboards, and it's another thing to create dashboards that users actually enjoy opening and enjoy using. So it's not just the looks though. Of course, it's really the user experience as a whole. Uh, Paulo asks, how did you set up the Viz pane on the rightmost part? It looks convenient. Oh, this is part of the of recent updates of Power BI. I think this started with the September update, or if not earlier, August update maybe. So wait, actually, now that you ask, I'm not sure. I thought everyone had that. Options and settings. Going to options. I'm clicking on preview features because it's possible that this was a preview feature. New card visual, dynamic strings, enable settings, Power BI home. Hmm. Nope, actually it should be default. So as long as you're using a recent version of Power BI, everything's going to be thrown there. It's convenient now because they have made lots of improvements on it, but when this first came out, it was a pain to use, to be honest. But yeah, it's pretty convenient now, especially since you can control click. Take note, before you could not control click. So you were stuck with just one pane at a time, and it was so hard to switch from format to data to the visual.
You're muted again.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, so as long as you're using a recent version of Power BI, you should have the visual, sorry, the pane switcher on the right side. Using the recent, oh, really? So, Subramanian, if you're using the October release, right? Because the only thing I can think of is it's probably part of one of the options here. Go to options and settings, options, and then go to the preview. Oh, you know what? You know what? Could it be if you have something there, at least one or two, right click on it and select always show pane switcher? So I'm not sure, honestly. I downloaded the latest update though, so anyways, I figured it out. Oh, thanks, Paulo. So yeah, please share. So I'm not sure if it's this one or if it's somewhere, and you can go unmute, off mute, if you'd like to, yeah, share that as well. But yeah, that's pretty much our Bigfoot sightings report at this stage. We spent a slightly more than an hour because I did want to, well, actually, no, we made great time, apparently. So we are still inside that actual hour. So I'll leave you with a note or with a quote from Edward Tuft. He is a data visualization pioneer, professor emeritus of Yale University. There's no such thing as information overload. There's only bad design. So I know you studied Power BI right now, and as beginners, you are more concerned about, finding where to create a bar chart, how to create this pie chart, how to put this measure where, how to compute for this. But at some point, once you're delving into design, it's a different ball game, and it's even wider array of skills that you can actually learn. And speaking of that, there is no learning overload either. So there are so many ways for you to improve yourself, especially now in the internet era, of course. You have your more traditional method, which is Microsoft's Learn page, learn.microsoft.com, certifications exam, PL300. I can send the slides in PDF format, by the way, just in case. So no need to type it in or for me to copy paste all of these. But so yeah, the PL300 exam is the default Power BI certification exam. So if you're a PL300 passer, you are essentially a Microsoft certified Power BI data analyst. Huge word, big words, but yeah. So that's the de facto certification exam. Um, any other query used in Power BI except SQL? You can use R and Python actually. So I'll tab real quick. Let's go into Power Query Editor. And you do have the option to, when you're inside Transform, to run R scripts and Python scripts. But yeah, by default, if you go into source, I'm actually not sure. Yeah, if you go into source, SQL is extremely popular. Of course, you have it in Databricks, you have it in Synapse, but you also can just click on more, and you have a wealth, a lot of possible data sources that you can connect to, including Google Analytics, Salesforce Objects, GitHub, LinkedIn, Marketo, Smartsheet. Again, just a lot. Good question though. And oh, sorry. So I thought I answered the what is the best way question. So sorry about that, Michael. So still, oh, sorry, different question. I thought it was the same. So what is the best way to represent, share our work and share our work in Power BI in a job resume? Do we need the site where we can upload it to? So Paulo, okay, so thank you, Paulo, for the help. So it is a preview feature on object. Thank you. So to answer Michael's question, I would recommend two sites at this point. At least they're the ones that I'm familiar with. Novipro.com, and I'm gonna type it in, novipro.com, and mavenanalytics.io. I really hope I uh, give them a Google search. I'm sorry if I type if I type the wrong websites. But novipro.com and mavenanalytics.com. For Maven Analytics, it's the showcase feature. There's a showcase like submenu under site. Those are two sites that offer free email logins where you have the ability to upload or publish your Power BI work in their workspaces. So obviously the advantage is, yeah, you have something free to upload to, and then you can use that personal workspace to upload in your resume, in your portfolio site, or in your, yeah, whatever blog or Facebook page, LinkedIn page. And it's a
Tony, you're mute.
gosh, I'm so sorry. And thank you for uh, mentioning that to me always. Please keep it up, because I have no warning when it's suddenly mutes me. So for Maven Analytics, or so as far as, again, I'm gonna go back a bit. So as far as the free portfolio sites, NoviPro, Maven Analytics, they offer free emails for you to upload or publish your Power BI work into their free workspaces. And then I mentioned Maven Analytics again here because Maven Analytics, Data DNA, and Enterprise DNA, they all provide free data challenges. Not, well, yeah, free data challenges wherein they provide a data set for you to work on, and then they give you around 30 days to 60 days. And it's an event in LinkedIn. So people join, upload their reports. If you don't feel confident, skilled enough to join, that's perfectly fine. View their work, view other people's work, view the contest winners, view the judging processes. For Maven, I believe the YouTube stream their actual judging, so you actually hear feedback about what they liked on a certain entry, what they felt could be improved, things like that. And it's an excellent way to learn how other people would interpret the same data source. That said, I really, especially if you're kind of new or intermediate with this business, with this field, I really encourage you to join those data challenges because it gives you a sense of like, I'm doing this on my own with this data. This is what I came up with. And then you look at other people's work and go, wow, you could actually, I never thought of interpreting the data that way, showing the visual this way, or yeah, gives you a really good sense, especially if you're new. It's or even intermediate. I'd say it's a humbling experience to just join those data challenges, and yeah, they're free. They just need your time and effort. So yeah, Maven Analytics, Data DNA, Enterprise DNA. Search them up on LinkedIn. They have data challenges. The Bigfoot sightings data set that we use actually was part of an Enterprise DNA challenge. So if you search for eDNA Bigfoot challenge, I think you would see some really cool entries about Bigfoot reports that people have built. Uh, all right, YouTube channel. Thank you, Surag. Oh yeah, that's cool. So yeah, I'll look out for that YouTube as well, or for that YouTube video as well. I'm probably going to hear myself cut out of audio in and out, but yeah. And finally, Power BI Filipinas also has social media channels, which is the Philippine group that I founded. So feel free to reach out. We also have a YouTube channel. We have a TikTok channel. We have a Discord server. We're pretty much all over, but our main social platform is Facebook because in the Philippines, Facebook is the internet. But yeah, uh, I'm doing a quick scroll. I hope I didn't. Oh, it also can helpful for GIS. I'm sorry, I don't know what GIS is. But yeah, if we can do a quick chat. But that said, Surag, I'm not sure if you'd like to close, but that is it as far as my slides and presentation is concerned. Thank you very much for all the questions, by the way. Really fun audience to work with. That was a lot of questions.
Yeah. So I think we are done here. There is no more questions. And there is a, as said in the start of session, there is certificate of participation. So you guys stayed till the all the time here, and we waited for the, where we had a delay as well. There is certificate of participation, and also Tony, if you want to share your community link in the chat box, that'll be great.
Oh yeah.
I think there might be a lot of people from Philippines as well, so they might want to join the community. Um,
Thank you very much.
so yeah, if there is anybody from there, feel free to join the Chinese community. And yeah, so the recording will be shared in our YouTube channel, and you can watch it. And there is a lot of other training as well in the YouTube channel if you want to watch it. Again, thank you to Tony for taking his time to share his knowledge with everybody in the community. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And have a great Saturday. With that, we'll be ending the today's session after Tony shares the link. I think he shared it.
I
Yeah,
have.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, feel free to check out and join if you guys are interested. There definitely will be. I think you guys are doing it the same thing, right? More Power BI there, right?
Yeah. It's the trend. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the cool thing right now.
Okay. Feel free to join there if you want more Power BI from Tony. So yeah, that's it for today, and have a great Saturday. With that, we will be ending, and see you in the next session.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Suraj.